Hello, everyone. We are live again, coming to you on a beautiful Wednesday. Actually, it's not even beautiful out. It's cold out. It's rainy out here in New York. Hopefully, you're having a beautiful day. Hopefully, having an amazing year. I know everyone we're talking to seems to just be having an amazing year. And as we start to reach the end of the year, start to plan for next year to making sure that the wonderful things can still continue to happen. And I am really excited to bring on my guest today. My guest is a longtime friend of mine and someone actually who I've just looked up to into the business. Steve Grossman, who is the chief strategy officer, right? I can say that right?
Yes.
Yeah, chief strategy officer at New Jersey Lenders. So what's really amazing about Steve? I mean, there's a lot of things that's amazing about Steve, but one of the things that we're going to talk about is besides running a company that has created a platform that has top originators, just excelling, finding actually their pace. As you might have seen, actually a few weeks ago, we had Chris Gallo, who's a top originator. I believe he was number 3 in the country.
I believe so.
Yeah, number 3 in the country, and he really actually went from being like a great loan officer. I mean, he was a great loan officer. He has that natural talent to finding his way to like mega originator status, thanks to the systems actually at New Jersey Lenders and great guys like Steve. But so in addition to Steve, and his team, creating actually this environment, he's also a beast in production. So let's. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So just Steve, give us an idea. From a production standpoint, what does the last 12 months look like for you?
Sure. Well, first, thank you for all that. I'm not a beast. Okay. I've been at it a long time. So I get credit for time served and doing this for a long time and being at the same place for 20 plus years, almost 30 years. So it definitely built upon it. So I could just tell you year to date, I'm about 173,400 units ish. So probably close out, 180 million, somewhere around there.
Wow, it's phenomenal. And just to give us an idea, I mean, like if you look at your day, how much of your day is spent on working on NJ Lenders versus your personal production?
So it's, certain days vary. I would say overall, I try to spend about 30% of my time at most working on my personal production, because certain days it could be 80% and certain days it could be 5 minutes. So I try to keep it to about a third.
Interesting. So I mean, do you have actually goals or I should say objectives for next year, production objectives that you'd like to hit for 2023, 2022?
It wouldn't necessarily be volume or production objectives. It would be taking that 33% of my day to getting as close to zero. I still enjoy talking to borrowers, especially children of prior clients or prior clients that I had a good rapport with. That's kind of helped me build my business, is developing relationships with my clients over the phone. I don't socialize with them. And I still enjoy talking to people. It also allows me to help develop and coach my loan officers, because I'm still kind of in the trenches. But my goal is to really get as much out of the transaction as possible and have members of my team continue to take on more and more responsibility, so I don't have to be as involved as I am, which is significantly less than I used to be.
So, and is this something that has been like a multi-year progression that you've wanted to achieve, or is this something like only in the last year or two that you wanted to do this?
So there's a lot of loan officers in the country are probably a lot better at than I am. Have they been able to transition from production to management in under a year? This has been kind of a slow grow for me, or professionally growing. So it's taken a few years, and each year a little bit more, but a little bit's a mindset. A lot of it's a mindset. And of course, getting the right people, you have to surround yourself by the right people. One of the great things, I've been doing this for 30 years. One of the bad things, I've been doing this for 30 years. I have longstanding relationships with referral partners for 15, 20, 25 years. I've been to their kids' weddings. They've been to my wedding, married 26 years. So it's hard to tell some of these people, talk to my assistant or my production partner without kind of making them seem like I'm too big for my britches. And if a prior client calls that I did 5 or 6 transactions for every family member, they want to talk to me, not my referral, not my production partner. So I'm transitioning, and the greatest gift that that you win this is when one of your referral partners calls you and you BS, how's your family? How's your family? Great, great, great. And they're like, hey, could you put me on with your production partner right now? That's when you know you won the battle. The second one is you go through a closed loan report and you look at those 10, 20 loans you close and you're like, who are those people? I never spoke to them. So when you see loans closing your name that I don't mean never spoke to, but that, or how did they come from, where your production partner did a lot of the business on the transaction, you didn't do much of it, that's when you know that you really made the transition.
Wow, that's awesome. So, give us an idea of what is the what is the plan? Like, how do you start chipping away at this? For next year, what are some of the activities? I'm assuming you're not doing any more prospecting, and now this is just more like reactive marketing from people just calling your cell phone saying, "Hey, Steven, I need to do a refi."
So there is proactive marketing. I do believe that I have a tremendous database that my team goes out to my database doing annual reviews. I have custom audiences through Facebook, constantly do posting. So I'm staying in touch with my prior clients. So that is active marketing, but more in a drip way. I use tools like HomeBot to go ahead and give them what their value is. I tried use a lot of tools out there. I have a lot of different marketing systems. I use HomeBinder. So there's a lot of things that I use to stay in touch and add value to my clients. So where I may not be out there trying to meet new referral partners, I am trying to leverage my database as much as possible. So I know I answered one question. I forgot what the other one was, Andrew.
So what are the things that you're trying to do to chip away? So you're doing less production, more working on the business overall. Are there particular areas that first quarter of 2022?
So would it be the production on a lot of us? There's certain things as loan officers we could control and certain things we can't control. We could always control meeting new relationships. We could always control work in our databases, but we can't control markets. Every loan officer who's listening to this, any loan officer that we know in the industry, was a beneficiary of one of the best 2 years in the mortgage industry, probably since 2003. So they were fabulous years. So those things we can't control. What we can control is our databases, and that's something that my team will work on. So the whole thing that I look to continue to migrate out of, or do less originations, still being involved, is really to get my team to take over more and more of the responsibilities, try to pass the baton a little bit better, and let my referral partners know that, trust my team, you don't need me anymore. But it's just, it's a process, as a transition. And it's also a mindset. Because sometimes when you have team members that work for you, they may, in certain ways, they could do a better job than you can. But in other ways, they may only do 80%. So you have to accept sometimes 80% if you're willing to take that other time of your day and apply to whatever you want it to be, whether it's management, whether it's your personal life or something else you want to do.
And clearly, to do the big numbers, that kind of numbers that you're doing, and run a company, or to do the kind of numbers that Chris or Justin, also another top producer from your company, and other originators, you have to do this with a team. And obviously, this is not just an originator with an LOA. This is a team of people. When did that actually, the whole philosophy of using teams to be able to hit these kind of production numbers, when did that come about for you?
So, I mean, as Andrew, you and I have calls, and I always said, I was always a fond reader of Mortgage Originator magazine, which a lot of people may or may not know. That was the original top 200 list. So I used to follow other originators. So when I was trying to follow in the footsteps, and I've always believed in masterminding, and I never think I have the answers. I like to copy off the smart kid. I noticed that other people had junior loan officers. So I started when I was doing probably production. And this was back then when loan amounts were a lot less, almost 20 plus years ago, and having a production partner. And then it wasn't finding the right production partner, it's unless you get really lucky, you have to go through a few until you get the right fit. And one of the things that a lot of people do in all businesses, whether it's our business, is they hire people, or they just hire bodies and they don't hire people. So as I went through a couple of production partners, the first few were very similar to me, but then I realized I have to start hiring with my weaknesses. I don't like technology. I'm not very good at it. I'm embarrassed to say I'm probably the only loan officer who does the volume that I do that does not how to, I don't have an Encompass login. I don't know how to use Encompass. But, shame on me. I don't know how to do it, but I feel I don't have to do it because that's not what I'm great at.
Yeah.
I used a tool called the Mortgage Coach a few years ago. I think I was in the top 10 Mortgage Coach users in the country. I don't know how to use the Mortgage Coach. I know how to explain it. I know the benefit of it, but I don't know how to input it. So I embrace tools. I'm big in CRMs. I've been on a CRM since 1998, which was kind of an early adapter. And when it comes to CRMs, there's the two types. There's the marketing CRMs, but I always believe in lead-based CRMs also. So I use both because I think a lot of loan officers are still working off of pads. And then they can lose their pads, and you just have to be tactical on who to call all the time. But in part of going back to your question, Andrew, is with the team is that you have to build a team in hiring people that you have to understand what you want from your team. So I was talking to a junior loan officer, and I knew his mother has a house cleaner. I said, when your mother hired a house cleaner, did she say, I want a house cleaner? No, she wanted somebody to mop the floors, change the beds, do this, this, and this every Tuesday. So whoever it is, everybody has different needs. So there's not a production partner or loan officer assistant that one size fits all. So the first recommendation I have for loan officers is identify all the things that you want to do that you haven't done. Identify all the things that you don't like doing. And then take that, and that's a job description for the new person. So when I eventually found the right production partner, it was technology, doing all the things I didn't want to do.
Right.
And also someone who was a great mortgage technician who knew how to read tax returns. That's, hopefully all of them know how to do that. But, I have, like everybody else, I have openers, I have processors, but I really have junior loan officers that support me.
Fantastic. So you can't run a TCA, but you can explain what a TCA, what exactly everything on it.
Mm-hmm.
But by the way, I guess you're not alone. We have Dan Smith. He doesn't even have an LOS on his computer.
Wow.
I guess.
And I have one. I just don't know how to turn it on. I see the icon here.
That's great. You have a login, I guess, somewhere exists, but you're not using that. So, all right. So would you say actually that is this something that when a loan originator like Chris is a great example, worked at a good company before, was a good originator before. But so when he came to you, did you actually say, all right, we're going to assign you to a team and we're going to bring this in? Was that something that you did? And do you do that for other top originators? Is that what happened?
So, I wish it was so easy that I could assign a loan officer to a team. And again, these things are not created overnight. So Chris, where all credit's due, he's one of the best originators I've ever met in my life. He has the ability to really bring in a ton of business, market the various people within the transaction, get referrals from referrals. But Chris has done a great job. And Chris's production partner, who is probably one of the best I've ever met in my life, I trained him. I met him when he was 15 years old. And he started working with me when he was 20. I met him in his family's storefront restaurant. And then I trained him for about 4 or 5 years. But when Chris took him over, he took the kid from the 12th grade into a PhD, and he's one of the best production partners in America. So having guys like that, and then there's Chris's other level. So if you look at like multi-level marketing to a period, you have Chris, then you have a couple junior license guys, and then you have his one production partner who runs his team, his entire pipeline. So that's how he was able to do this volume, because he built a wonderful team, because processors are processors, and due respect, I mean, they're we're great. They're the backbone of our business, but his processors, some are fantastic, but they're not any much better than anybody else on this call's great processor. It's the people one step below him that work with him on the front line that allows him to do the volume that he does.
So, and by the way, just kind of Dan Smith just added this. Sunday was his 39th year in the business. Used to be a speaker at the mom seminars, the success. I forget what they call those, but the superstar seminars.
Yep, I went to a lot of them. They were great.
Yeah. So, all right. So I got to ask that. So, Chris's production assistant that used to work in his family's restaurant, storefront restaurant. What did you see? He's working in a restaurant, and what was it about him that what did he have?
So there's two things in life, Andrew, you can't teach. One is attitude, and one is drive and desire. So when I recruit and hire, I have a training program here. I call it my next gen, because when I first started from my first class, 6 of the 8 people were children of employees, so they were the next generation. Yeah. My last class, I had 23 people in the class. So what I do, I take them over 30 weeks. I meet with them every Friday, and I bring in different, whether it's an appraiser to explain appraisals, a title company to explain that, but I also teach them sales tactics. So one of the things is that you can meet certain people that have a great attitude and just drive and desire. So if I have a person who has that, I could teach them the mortgage business. So this individual, like many other people that I've trained, if they fit that mold, they will succeed. Everybody won't succeed equally. It's like a sporting team. If there is, I'll use soccer because that is 11 people, right? Basketball's 5. But if you have 11 people, they could all be really good players, but everybody's not equally as good. But as long as they're good and they play like a team, that's all you want. And so what we try to do is just look for people that are willing to work hard, willing to continue to learn, and willing to have a great attitude.
There's Dan Smith just added success secrets of Mortgage Originator Magazine Superstar. So,
I probably have in the pile of crap behind this desk, I could probably pull out a Mortgage Originator magazine within 45 seconds for you. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, one time I'm going to be in your office. I would love to thumb through that. There was, listen, Chris Salazar, was someone actually helped us get into the business. Actually, when we started, way back then, we started the Mortgage Press, and Chris Salazar, was instrumental in helping us getting started. He actually gave us content and gave free subscriptions, to any of our readers. It was a great guy that just he encouraged us getting into the business. He was somewhat of a mentor, and we had actually these almost kind of informal mastermind sessions with him. And so you talk about the masterminds. You talk about actually these a lot. This is something actually that we've had a lot of conversations about. Talk to me a little bit about actually, the power of the masterminds, and and specifically how you see originators can use this concept to grow their business.
Sure. So I'm going to dial this back to my personal experience, and then I could communicate to originators why it's something that I highly encourage. So Mortgage Originator was this wonderful magazine about 15, 16 years ago. A gentleman named Brent Hicks, who's a mega producer out of Dallas, Texas, one of the most dynamic individuals you ever meet in your life. His wife calls my partner and says, I'm putting together a mastermind group. I didn't know what mastermind groups was. She just picked this out of the 200 list. It was geographically looking for people. And my partner, Charles, said, you know what, you'd be better at this. So we get on a call. There's 5 or 6 of us, and we end up in his office in Dallas in January, probably 15 to 17 years ago. So that was my first mastermind. And ever since then, I have not stopped. So I truly believe is that you want to align yourself with people who are willing to share, be open and honest, that are all have a mission of just professional growth. And I started in this group, and this group kind of formed. Then we went to another group, but we kind of did it together. And now I'm in the Performance Expert L360 program, which is a coaching program, but there's a ton of great mastermind in it. And Tim Brahim, who's one of the industry OGs. I mean, he runs the program, but I 100% subscribe in it. And that's where I learn, because what happens to loan officers, you only know what you know. You only know what you read. You only know what your manager tells you or what's in your company. And inside our four walls, we kind of get a lot of tunnel vision. So sometimes you have to go outside your four walls to really learn what's going on in the world. And it also it recharges your battery. And it's not like going to, some of these rah-rah events where somebody's going to get up on the stage and try to get you run through fire. These are very tactical meetings that you could discuss. Okay, how do I hire and recruit a production partner? Learn about DISC assessment. Where do I go to do that? What do I want them to do? What kind of social media you're using? What kind of CRM you're using? What other tools other than Mortgage Coach are using? So I learn about all the tools out there, and the people I'm learning for don't have a dog in the fight. They're not looking to sell me anything. They're looking to just share ideas. And it's just a fantastic way for you to professionally grow so you could stay. You're not always in front of the current trends, but you're at least not 10 years behind them either. So I really believe in others. It could be sales tactics. Like, one of the things that I probably didn't do well in my business is doing annual reviews. I learned from a number of guys in my business coaching programs and my business masterminds. You got to do it. You got to stay in touch with your people, because most people don't. Just a lot of just simple things like that. I learned about the Mortgage Coach through my masterminding. All these tools that I brought to NJ Lenders, that I've empowered all my loan officers. I didn't just come up with them. I came up with them by constantly getting myself out there, whether it's through Lenders One, the IMB, through performance experts, through my secondary masterminding, through my consumer direct mastermind groups. That I have multiple mastermind groups that I've created, that I manage, that I run, I facilitate. But I do it in, I don't want to say self-serving way, but I participate in this so I could benefit personally, professionally, as well as take this information, bring it back, and help coach and mentor my sales force, as well as a lot of my operations team. I learned about, the right providers for me to outsource a lot of my operations stuff. I learned the right providers for me to implement robotics, the right providers to do AI, the right appraisal vendors out there. So it's all through masterminding and getting myself out there.
Yeah, fantastic. So Dan was went to his first mastermind event with Chris in Carefree, Arizona. So that's interesting. If the total of 8 successful LOs in the room, was able to roundtable Chris Ledley in the discussion. Excellent for advancing ideas, advancing career. So listen, can you? So you've talked to us about how this worked for you and what you did, finding production assistants, and then some of the ideas that you got from the mastermind event. But for an originator that's watching this out there, and let's say actually they're solely focused on production, and that's their thing. What are some of the opportunities that you think would be out there for them to create masterminds?
Well, you could do within your region. The one thing about doing it within your region, sometimes the loan officer, 2 towns away, may or may not share his or her tricks. Some do, some don't. You could come to my office. I will share everything with you, and you could be my competitor next door. I am friends with most of my competitors in New Jersey. Last night, there was a conference we were at. I socialized mostly with my competitors, not with the realtors. That's who I was with. So you could try it. And there's other ways. I mean, if you have an MI rep, I mean, I would have to really think on what's the best way to do it. But sometimes it's like, if you find one friend and that person finds one friend, and it's only, I'll invite you, you invite one person, and you may start out with 3 or 4. Then you may get to 6 or 8. You don't want to grow these groups to 30, 40, 50 people, because it's never going to, you want people to give the opportunity to present, to speak, to feel open. And if the group gets too big, it may not be effective. But I would try in your local market at first. And sometimes if you're working with a peer who is at another company, that peer may have a colleague who's in another city. So there could be a way to build, or a colleague that they used to work with at a prior company. But it really starts with one friend. And I'm sure a lot of people on this call have friends in the industry. And that would be probably a pretty good way to start out. Just start out at 1 or 2. And before you know it, it builds. And whatever you do, don't go too big.
Yeah.
And then when you go onto a mastermind call, you want to come in with an agenda. So what I typically do when I run my calls is I solicit all the members and I ask them what their pain points are. What do you want to learn? What do you want to share? Because if you go in a free form way and it's not moderated and you don't have an agenda, it's not productive and people are going to lose focus. So by keeping my masterminds on point, I solicit them in advance. I say, what do you want to talk about? What are your pain points? What do you want to know? I create an agenda and we go through it bullet point by bullet point. And what we also do are making connections, because Andrew, you may be my friend, but they may be your friend, you're Larry, but now Larry becomes my friend. So I may connect to Larry directly. And then what you want to do, like anything, have the calls, whether it's monthly, quarterly, you come set up a regiment. One of the things I've also done early in masterminding, I still do it, is I do site visits. So I will go to a peer's office and that peer will go ahead and prepare, like show me everything that they do. It's almost like an autopsy on their entire business. So site visits were something that we always subscribed to, where we went to each other's offices and they would show us anything from a tour of the office to their studio for their videos. They would show me all their marketing material. They bring in their staff and allow us to interview their staff. And at the same time, I'd be sharing my information, but they would come back as my trusted advisor saying, Steve, maybe you should improve upon this. So they were my board of directors. So I do believe when you get a little deeper masterminding, site visits are something that is also very impactful.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, that's definitely not happening here in New York. New Yorkers, no one shares anything with anyone in New York or Northern Jersey.
You'd be surprised. You'd be
Yeah.
surprised. But
Listen, I mean,
I got the right people.
yeah, it's 100%. I agree. So, all right. So listen, I pulled the numbers. It's insane. So so you have your top 10 MLOs, according to the public data, did north of 300 units in the last 12 months. I mean, which is it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I mean, so but do you think actually that is sustainable? The way business is going. I mean, obviously the refis are going to be sucked out. I mean, how do you actually at least come close to maintaining those same kind of production numbers?
So, I mean, this is like taking a dart and throwing it against the wall on these numbers. And everybody on that team is not equal, because there's people that are like myself. And, I'm not towards the end of my career, but I'm towards the end of my production career. So it depends on where you stack up. And there could be people that are totally in the growth mode. There's people that are in the just kind of try to keep business here. And there's people that are going like this. But if you're looking for people to sustain, is you got to dig your heels in. We know that, the wind was at our back. We got very lucky over the last 2 years, where there's probably no industry, unless you were selling masks, that did as well during COVID as we did. I mean, you don't even want to say it, but it's horrible. But it was great to our business, and the housing market, realtors did great, title companies, every vendor around us, appraisers, benefited from, contractors, home, everything, anything to do with houses did great. So going forward, it's going to be challenging. I think, the world's going to change. There'll always be a need for people like ourselves, because you still need a licensed individual to do the loan. I think you just have to not reinvent yourself, but you have to know that loans aren't going to be falling off the loan tree anymore. You're always going to continue to have referrals from your database, because there's always going to be people buying homes and investment properties and second homes. But you're going to have to go out and meet new referral partners. I think you're going to have to widen your bench of referral partners. Also, is I have a pretty diverse practice. A good percentage of my business comes from my prior clients. I have a good handful of realtors. Where I'm in an attorney state, I have a lot of transaction attorneys that refer me. I have a bunch of matrimonial attorneys. I have accountants. I have financial planners. So some of these parts of my practice are not, I don't use the word recession proof, but they're interest rate proof. Yeah. So when the rates go up or down, if you're getting divorced, you still got to do a refinance. So I try to diversify my referral partners and also my source of business. So I think loan officers in general just can't rely on maybe what they did historically. And one of the things where I think loan officers, I don't want to use the word make a mistake, Andrew, is that I give Zillow as an example. Zillow is a wonderful product out there, and we all get extorted from realtors to co-market with them. And sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Sometimes we want to say no, and sometimes we don't. But what happens is sometimes what loan officers need to do is this is a great time of year to do an audit. And what you want to do is audit your business from the last year or two and really say, okay, where did my business come from? Then where did I spend my money? I will bet $1 for most people who watch this is that where you're investing your money may not be where you're directly getting the majority of your business. So I think what happens is loan officers should invest, because what works for me may not work for you, Andrew.
No.
It may not work for the next person, but everybody does it a little bit differently. But I think you have to invest in your business. It's not spend money, invest. I think you have to invest in the marketing in your business. Invest in marketing, where they always say what the criminal comes back to the scene of the crime is what works for me. Maybe you're great at Zillow. Maybe you're great at developing relationships and following up on those leads. But I think you have to invest in your business in the areas that have proven the most success. You have to diversify your referral partners. You have to stay in touch with your clients, and you have to try to communicate to the realtors within your transaction, just old school nuts and bolts, and realize I think some of us are going to have to go back to working for a living as opposed to just being order takers.
Yeah. I want to skip back actually to something actually. So obviously, originators like Chris, they're just naturally talented, amazing originators, and without actually the proper systems, he's still going to do hundreds of transactions, maybe not thousands of transactions, but so there's something to be said about the operation and probably technology. I mean, I'm just making guesses here. And do you think actually that there is something vastly different from the operations and technology stack that you guys have at NJ Lenders versus other mortgage bankers in your area?
So, I know what some people have, and I know what others don't have. I mean, the first thing we have here is transparency, is that we get in front of a sales call and we're letting our people know what we're doing in the bots we're building. We try to be 100% transparent and try to also share. As well as we mastermind outside the company, we do a lot of mastermind inside the company. A lot of companies have environments where, of course, our loan officers compete against each other. That's the world. They're competitive people. That's why they're in sales. But what we try to do is if one person has a tool and it's working, we're going to let everybody else know. We're not going to keep it proprietary. We try to, we use Sales Boomerang for our trigger leads and listings. There's not one silver bullet, Andrew. There's not going to be one bullet that is going to take a person from being average to be successful. It's like Heinz 57 has 57 ingredients in there. You have to do a little of this, a little of that, but you have to do it. You have to get up in the morning. You have to go to the gym. I don't care what you do, but you got to do something to stay healthy. It's the same thing as all these tools. A lot of times people just buy them but don't use it. It's like that Peloton that people bought that's having clothes hung on it. Well, who cares if you bought it? A lot of loan officers can go buy the next shiny coin. They buy it, but they don't use it. So you have to make sure that you use the right technology. So for as an example, if you look at the whole transaction, is that you want to make sure you have a good prospect campaign. You want to make sure you're marketing on social media. We have a great marketing department, and we do all that for our loan officers. You want to make sure that, with the trigger leads with Sales Boomerang, you want to do that. You want to make sure you do a proper presentation using a mortgage coach tool, because I believe a person's mortgage transaction is one of the biggest financial decisions you make. You have to treat them and the transaction with respect, and you have to present it to them in a very intellectual way, not just via text, not an email. I'll give you this rate. These are my fees. So you have to then have follow-up, like we have Top of Mind Surefire. We have to then have all their closing documents in Homebinder. These are just a slew of tools that we constantly do. But what we do also is we realize that I am lazy. Most loan officers are lazy. We're great at selling. All we want to do is sell and close loans. So we either have to do that for them and build teams around them to do it, or it won't get done. We do another thing is I believe in the law of reciprocity. We have a big gifting program. Well, I realize that most loan officers don't have the wherewithal, that the team's big enough to have their own marketing person to send out thank you gifts to borrowers. So what we do is we call it shared services. We go ahead and we handle the deployment of this. So what we try to do is provide all the tools and support out there. And we want to do it for our loan officers so they could go out and do what they do best, is sell.
So when you say sell, define that. Define actually, so your activities, if you could just focus on the selling part of it, and do all the things actually that you're not good at by your team members and your production assistant. Talk to us about, like what does Steve Grossman do right now in terms of originating?
So, and I take that back, because the word sell, it doesn't have a negative connotation to it, but where I think, but we are salespeople. We're in sales organizations. That we do, and I'll never be ashamed of my profession. But why people come to me, and if a borrower talks to me for 5-10 minutes on the phone, they're going to realize most likely I know my business more than the other person they spoke to. So what I try to do is and we do this with our loan officers, when we have a sales meeting every other Tuesday, it's not like, oh, Andrew did 11 loans, put them up on my shoulders, let me run around the room. It's none of that. All we want to do is educate, educate, educate. I want my sales team to be the smartest loan officers out on the street, because when a borrower speaks to my guy versus one of our competitors, I assure you, the majority of time, my loan officer is going to come across knowing what they're talking about. Not saying the other person does or doesn't. Maybe the other loan officer is great also. But we truly believe in being great technicians, because our job is really, we're their mortgage advisor. We're their debt advisor. Yeah. I want my borrowers to know that there's only one person in their life they're ever going to talk to regarding any mortgage they need or any family member. So I set that stage up front, and I'm not selling. All I'm talking about, I'm advising, I'm listening to them. I want to know what their goals and aspirations are, what their hot buttons is, what their affordability, not what I can lend them. I'm not looking to jam them into a house because the realtor wants to sell them a bigger house. And I tell them, quite honestly, I want to make sure that you're happy with the payment, you're comfortable with this. If the people want a 15-year, I go ask them about their kid's age. Do you have college? And maybe you shouldn't do that and save for college. And, I really look at the whole holistic picture. And once people hear me ask these questions, they recognize my professionalism. So my professional experience and knowledge is what's selling me. It's not me. I'm not going on there. I'm not begging for the business. I'm not selling. I'm not doing the hardcore stuff. I'm a very low-key person. If you could hear it in my voice, I have a very monotone, easygoing voice. All I do is just try to be friendly, try to understand what their goals are, ask the right questions, understand, look for any rocks in the road. So one of the things that I hear sometimes loan officers speak, and they're idiots. I can't believe somebody told them that and didn't know these things. And I think all loan officers have to be a master of their trade. You don't want to go to a doctor who says, oh, this is my first time I ever did an operation. You want to go to a doctor who did 1,000 of those operations, that knows every time something goes wrong, you're not going to die on the table. Yep. So, we have to make sure that we know what we're doing.
And I'd say actually consistent with the top originators that I've met and had the pleasure of interviewing. They're technicians. They know the product, and I think actually it does two things. First off, they have all the answers, but they have actually all the answers. And if you stump them, they appreciate it, because it's like a learning opportunity for them to be able to find something that they didn't know, but that comes over as such confidence. And when you see someone actually who knows exactly what they're talking about and has that confidence because they've immersed themselves to become that technician, to know as many answers as they possibly can, and feel challenged and excited when they can learn something that they never even know that they should know about. I think it's a great thing. So,
Andrew, I wish I could document this, but I'm confident that very few originators have lost business, but then that customer ended up coming back to him years later or referred to him based on professionalism. So I'd be lying to tell you I win every loan. Nobody does. There's always going to see somebody with a better price or better whatever. It just happens. I mean, we're selling a financial instrument that's a commodity, whatever it may be. And we win as much as we can and we lose some. But I get so much business from people and I have to go in my CRM on who they were because I don't see them in like a closed loan, and I see, oh, I lost the loan, or whatever it may be. And it comes back to because I treated that client with respect. I gave them professional advice. I suggested they work with the other lender. I gave them a mortgage coach presentation. I educated them. And I said, if you have any questions with the other lender, and this wasn't a sales thing, like I don't say send me the LE and I'll pick holes in. I said, if seriously, it's a great deal you have over there, just call me if you have any questions. I'm always here for you during the transaction. By saying stuff like that, it has come back to me in spades over the years. And I can't tell you how much business I got from just being a straight shooter, a great advisor, and a good financial and mortgage advisor to these borrowers. And I really think you have to play the long run. And a lot of officers are just looking at that one loan, that one commission. And this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And you have to look at your business. And one of the things with this business too is that a lot of people on this call have friends who are money managers, financial advisors, insurance people. They have a very tangible residual. Every year they know January 1st, they're going to wake up and they're going to make X amount of money, hopefully. In our business, we don't have a tangible residual. We have an intangible residual. And how you build that intangible residual is one, work on a database, constantly stay in touch with your clients, always doing the right thing. And one of the other things too is like, I know, listen, I'd love to recruit all great loan officers out there, but one of the things where a lot of my guys have success is our average loan officer has been with us for over 10, 12 years. Because the average loan officer in the industry, Andrew, they switch jobs every 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So if you stay in one place, the clients are going to feel more comfortable. If you're a job jumper, move every 2 years, how do I know you're going to be there the day I close on the loan? So it's just a lot of just things that work that we preach, and I really philosophically believe in, it's just like my 57 ingredients in the ketchup. It eventually builds.
Fantastic. Charles just added, yes, it's always good to be knowledgeable, be a straight shooter. Thank you, Charles. Appreciate that. And our friend Dan, I'm assuming that's why he's successful. It was pretty simple. Mm-hmm. It's amazing actually how just a few minutes with you, Steven, you just see how easy it is to be successful. If you have to have that drive. You have to have good systems to kind of support you, and just become a technician. It's not about learning scripts. It's not about any of that stuff. It's just being actually, being the best technician, having good support system, and working hard. Now, to give us an idea, like when you were focused solely on production, and you were like kind of early in your career, what kind of hours were you putting? Like, was there a time where you were working, 80-hour weeks? What was it like when you were?
I was like every other schmuck in the business, just working ridiculous hours, whatever. I can't quantify. I don't know what 80 hours is, but I would always be like the first one in, the last one out. I would always work one day on the weekend. And by the way, I still like to come in a couple hours on the weekend, not every weekend. It's quiet time for me to organize my thoughts and my week. But yeah, I worked those crazy hours like everybody else did.
That's fantastic. Steve, always great hanging with you. Really glad, I'm glad actually we had a chance to really kind of dig in to understand a little bit more about why you're so successful, why the originators that work for you are so successful, and understand some of the mystery that's behind NJ Lenders. So thank you for joining us today.
No secret sauce, pal, but there's a lot of great companies out there. But thank you very much.
Fantastic. And thank you for joining us for another Mortgage Leadership Outlook, where we go live with the greatest leaders in the mortgage industry. People are inspiring us to do greater things and continue to grow this business. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and hope you're finishing the year strong. Have a great day.